Stand your ground.
I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the
Stand
army.
your ground.
I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I got my war clothes on in the army of the Lord. I got my war clothes on in the army. I got my war clothes on in the army of the Lord. I got my war clothes on in the army. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I got my breastplate on in the army of the Lord. I got my helmet on in the army. I got my sword and shield in the army of the Lord. His truth is marching on. Let's get on.
Okay, so welcome to End Times 4565, and I'm doing a second go here because I forgot to turn my microphone on. But we want to start off here with this Earth Wobble, and you can see that the Earth Wobble, I don't know if my cursor is going to work here or not. No, here comes the cursor. You can see here that the colors are red and orange. Red there's in 2014 and orange is this year. And this year started there and moved around, and it got, instead of going around like I thought it might, it slowed down and fell back into 2014. And as it moved into 2014, I mean, right on it, I thought about what we might see. And as I get around here to show you where, and you can see by the dots how close they are right there. This means that there was a dramatic reducing in speed of rotation. And then notice the last dot, how it comes out of the 2014 track. So I'll be anxious to see how far out it's going to go to see where it goes from here. And I knew that when I saw this slowing in rotation, that it was going to cause movement with the tectonic plates, and I was right about that because of the earthquakes that we're watching right now. So let it be noted that we're coming now out of the 2014 track with a slowing in rotation speed, as you can see right there by the dots, not being spaced equally apart, and the last one coming out of position. We'll have to watch and see where it goes from there. So, keeping an eye on it, we will pay close attention to it. Of course, the earthquakes are telling us everything we need to see. And by the tectonic plate movements. Which brings us to Kilauea, which is a volcano that's not going to cease anytime soon. Because if you remember, it had a volcanic lake in the summit, in the cone, that moved up and down and continued to bubble for years. And then the first quake came and the summit collapsed onto itself and plugged up the summit, which caused the pressure to move underground through a channel along the southeast rift zone of the Big Island. And that channel swelled up like a busting up water hose and caused cracks and fissures, which released the pressure from the underground channel. And so this lake that was in the cone lasted for years. And if the cone doesn't melt open or a new cone form, I can't see the eruption of Kilauea ending. It's just not going to just stop. It's one of those volcanoes that's just not going to stop, ladies and gentlemen. So definitely one to keep an eye on because it's reshaping that whole end of the island. And I'm more concerned about a catastrophic land failure and a sloughing off into the ocean of the land and causing a tsunami. Now, the scientists said at first that that wasn't possible, that it wasn't going to happen. But I don't think they were in anticipation of this long-going, ongoing fissure eruption along this underground channel. Because eventually this underground channel is going to find its way into the ocean, underwater. I'm not talking about the above ground lava, I'm talking about underwater. And of course, then we know that's going to cause an explosion. And with that being said, let's see if we're moving along. This is going to be the magnetopause. Now, I'm going to show you something very interesting. The blue lines are the interplanetary magnetic field from the sun, and the poles are not quite tilted as they should be. It's off. And the red lines are the closed loops, or the Van Allen radiation belts, and they are weakening. And notice the orange. The orange, how heavy it is from the solar winds, the space winds, and the bow shock. It's what you're looking at is a tremendous scene right here. So let me put it into motion and I'll show you. These are the recent photographs, noticing the timestamp. And then after that gets good and loaded, look at that, ladies and gentlemen. That's incredible. But now let me add, I'll come over here and I'm going to add 130 or so frames back in time. And let's get a full picture of what's happening. Now it's going to flash until it gets good and loaded. And when it gets all the way loaded, I'm going to show you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, first off, I want to ask you a question here. I want to ask you about those black spots. You can see right there that the Earth is having difficulty in its rotation. But I want to ask you about these black spots right here in the plasma. Not sure what that is. If it's something trying to show through the backside of the plasma. Perhaps objects. Maybe just super condensed plasma. And how dangerous is that? If that is super condensed plasma, what would happen if it was ignited? The bow shock. Look at the interplanetary magnetic field. Ladies and gentlemen, do we really need all the discussion about what we see? Look at our magnetic field being pulled and drawn into this flow. Not good. Pole caps being ripped apart. Note right here there's only a very few lines coming from the planet. I see our Van Allen belts are holding up as there's some blue right there, but it's very small. You can see here how the bow shock or the radiation from space is trying to break through. Look how small that got. Wow. This is incredible pictures. Incredible pictures for incredible times. I really hope that I'm being successful here. With this narration. Just watch it, ladies and gentlemen, and ask yourself what is happening. Almost no commentary is needed. Except you just don't want it to be too silent, but look at the interplanetary magnetic field bunching up at the front. The blue lines in the bow shock, how they get caught up. And then they break loose. Something incredibly wrong about this. But I'm sure some scientists will come on the comments and be glad to explain it to us, what we're seeing. At least I would hope that they would. See how it bunches up those blue lines? That's just incorrect, ladies. None of that picture is correct. It's just wrong. Look at it. This is the one thing that's brought me back, was this magnetopause. And so now let's take a look at the Earth. Take a look at a few things. First off, that's the surface winds. We're going to go to the jet stream and take a look at it. Notice how it's crossing from north to south, and we know that that's incorrect. See right there? There should be no crossing across the equator in that big of a zone. But there it is. It's just not right. I don't know the scientific word for it. There's the United States. You can see that. Let's look at the northern pole caps, Brother Ed. Let's take a look and see what's happening over the North Pole. Yes, that's a little hurricane right there. And it could get caught up in that jet stream, but we'll have to see. kind of a Pineapple Express, isn't it? Look at that big storm. Now, this is the northern jet stream. And I only have one thing to say. This is a train wreck. Completely wrecked. It's completely wrecked, ladies and gentlemen. Broken up. Different storms. Look at all the storms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Numerous. 10, 11. And look how far south this is going. That's Africa. That's Norway way up here. Is where it should be. Going across Africa, Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East. That, China, Japan, that's incredible. It should not be that. And the storm. Look at the storms. It just, it's too spread out. It's a major dysfunction. What's causing it? Why is it like that? Let's look at the southern hemisphere. You think it's much better? No. Look at the speed. And no, it indeed isn't much better. It's further north than it should be. Even going across to Australia. I'm going to tell you, that's going to be bad for Australia right there. Now, let's look at Australia. Let's look at the SO gases. Look at that. This is what I've been talking about all along. See that? Well, that's just absolutely incredible. The western side of Australia that's inundated with these SO gases, look how heavy that is. That heaviness is going to cause a lot of evil actions on the west side of Australia. Because them SO gases affect the people. They get sick from it, and it affects the people. And you see how the winds are pulling the gases from India across over to Asia, which is highly unusual. Notice here at Hawaii, what do you see? Well, let's zoom in and take a look. See that little break right there? See it? It's not as intense as it has been. That's not good. 3 storms. 1, 2, 3. Look at them. Huge storms. These storms are big. Let me show you. Let me go back to the wind, and I'll show it. Look at that. Three huge, incredible storms. That is highly unusual, ladies and gentlemen. And they're very, very big, to say the least. Much bigger than the hurricane down there by Mexico. And looking at it through the jet stream, look how that jet stream just wiggles like a snake. It's erratic. And look how this storm, so huge that it goes all the way down to the surface. See it? Pulling itself all the way down to the surface. Huge storms. Better keep an eye on them, ladies and gentlemen. And this little storm edge over Hawaii can't be good. Not at all. And there you see the little hurricane in the Pacific. I don't know if it's not going to be blocked by that jet stream or not. But let us move along. Now I want to look at the near-Earth objects. The only one I really want to talk about is 2018 LD1. It's the closest one. You see 1.57 or 0.004. 1.5 lunar distances away from the Earth on the 14th. And this goes all the way to July the 1st. And it is the closest object between the 14th and the 1st. All of these others are a long ways away, but this one is at 0.004 away from the Earth, 2018 LD1. We'll have to keep a close eye on it to see if, as it approaches, that these numbers don't change. Because with what's happening out there in space, these numbers are not chiseled in granite anymore. They're just a speculation of computerized rendering. 2018 LD1. And the others long ways off. So, but we'll be watching it to see if the numbers change. Okay. Moving along. This is the fireball events. And we noted here that there were one on the 9th, 2 on the 10th, and on the 8th, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 events on the 8th, and on the 7th, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 events. And then on the 9th, only 1. And then on the 10th, only 2. Which was one in Wyoming and Utah was spotted. And the one on the 9th was seen over Niagara Falls. So, with the events going down from 1 to 2, and these 2 here were fragmented, they left fragments. I guess they were found. But with it going down from 1 to 2, I'm wondering what section of space we're going into that would drop the fireballs down so far when they've been running 8 to 15. Just find it very interesting. And we'll be keeping a close eye on it in case it ramps up. If it begins to ramp up again, well, we'll break in and we'll tell you. And I'll be keeping a closer eye on the fireballs and the near-Earth objects and the magnetopause. And if anything out of the ordinary happens, I'll do my best to get right on it, as we're trying to stay abreast to everything that we see. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, it's good to be back. I'm glad to be back. Keep an eye on these 3 storms. They mean something, and I'll be anxious to see what happens to them and where they go. And time will tell. So with that being said, my surgery is on the 9th. Please continue to pray for me. I appreciate it. Major brain surgery. Hoping to keep the working of all my extremities. I'll say God bless you.
Stand your ground.
I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I got my war clothes on in the army of the Lord. I got my war clothes on in the army. I got my war clothes on in the army of the Lord. I got my war clothes on in the army. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I got my breastplate on in the army of the Lord. I got my helmet on in the army. I got my sword and shield in the army of the Lord. His truth is marching on. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I'm a soldier.
Left, left, right, left, 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 right, left.
I'm a soldier.
Left, left, right, left.
Come on now, left, 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 right, left. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I may never march in the infantry, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm gonna fight until I die. In the army of the Lord. I'm gonna fight until I die.